So let's talk about 80s fashion and pop influence. Um, I grew up through the 80s, small child up to my first year of junior high was 1989. I'd had a sister who was 8 years older than me, and you can see a lot of her influence from the culture at the time and how she dressed and what she wore. Um, Branding was a big thing at the time. I mean, there were shirts that had Coca-Cola. I had a Pepsi Cola shirt. I had a shirt that had Pac-Man on it, an A-Team shirt at one time. It was just branding was such a popular thing at the time, and it reflected in your fashion. Jean jackets were like a huge thing, especially with buttons all over them. We'd always get buttons and put them on our jean jackets to wear to school. Another big thing that was going on at the time too, especially in the mid to late '80s, when the hair bands were really starting to hit. My sister being one of them, uh, huge hair, huge hair. We were a White Rain family. That's what the brand of hair care spray on lacquer that we used in the household. I say we, mainly my sister. Uh, Funny story about it is like me and my sister shared a bathroom at the end of the hall in my family's home, and the doorknob to the outside of the hallway was turned in when the door was open into the bathroom. And my sister got ready in the mirror every morning for school, getting her makeup and her hair ready. And the doorknob over time became crusted with the overspray from that White Rain hairspray. I mean, that thing, it was no longer a brass doorknob. It looked very matted, I guess you could say. Everything it seemed like was really marketed towards this age demographic of children. I think about Saturday morning cartoons, sitting in front of the television watching a wide range of shows, and have my bowl of Captain Crunch or Smurfberry Crunch or Cocoa Pebbles, what name you. It seemed like the supermarkets were really stocked with box cereals at the time, sweet, sugary cereals for young children to consume, and they always seemed to be marketed just at the right height. You know, they'd only be eye height on that aisle there when you went down. A typical Saturday morning for me was sitting in front of the television watching Saturday morning cartoons. We had such a variety of cartoons to watch then. Of course, where we live, when I lived in Paragould and probably in the Pocahontas even at that time, once it rolled around 11:30, Mid-South Wrestling, Memphis Wrestling was on television with Lance Russell and Dave Brown doing commentary. And I never forget my cousin and myself would always try to imitate the wrestling moves and holds that we had seen on television that morning. Branding, I mean, you saw it everywhere. I mean, there was one year I'm old enough now I could, say I had a birthday. I think it was my seventh birthday at McDonald's in Paragould. I'm old enough, I'm at the age where there were still ashtrays in McDonald's because you could smoke in restaurants at that time. I believe there was a Smurf on my birthday cake one year, and there was a Gizmo from the Gremlins on a birthday cake one year. So, I mean, pop culture and the things we were witnessing at the time really influenced our day to day lives. There are so many movies that were released during that era, and so many of them, have a very personal connection to myself because a lot of those movies I went with my mother to see, and I actually lost my mother this year, so it really holds a lot of connection to me to see some movies that I can remember going and sitting in a movie theater with my mother and watching during the '80s. Of course, Ghostbusters is probably one of my favorite films of all time, and Back to the Future always stands out as one of my favorites. That's why I love the old DeLorean. And even when we went to Universal Studios in the late '80s on a family vacation in Florida, I made sure to find my way and find the DeLorean from Back to the Future that they had on display.